As the McConaughey would say, all right, all right, all right. It's the 23rd of January 2022, and I thought I'd make another podcast for you all. I've, I guess, been avoiding, without realizing it, the discussion of something that has everything to do with the files on this channel, and it has everything to do with about why I felt compelled to research this for 5 whole years and produce over 500 intricate files of proof of what is actually happening as a result of mobile technology. And that is where we were supposed to be, not where we've ended up. And I wanted to talk with you about where I believe we were supposed to be. I don't know if some of you remember or not. Maybe you're new to the internet. Maybe I'm a lot older than you, but for those who are roughly in my age group, you will recall a period of time where there was what was called the New Age movement that came along. A lot of bookstores still stock New Age books. And when I first came online, which was over 20 years ago, there was a lot of New Age content on the internet. What I came across when I started looking into that online, and I should probably explain first that I had already read a lot of those sorts of books before I even got the internet. So when I came online, I quite deliberately sought out what other sort of information was out there, and if there was anything, that I had missed. As one does, you look for the things that interest you, and that's pretty much what I did. But even before that, in the books that I had read, there were a few of them that spoke about what happens to us human beings, when we shed the illusion that we are fed here, when we elevate our consciousness and become more loving. And these books told me that by elevating our consciousness and becoming more loving and following what is considered to be universal law and being humane beings and purifying our bodies and protecting ourselves from harmful media and living in harmony with nature, that we would essentially shed the carbon base, which is basically what the human being is built of, the animal flesh. We are carbon forms, because our energy, the energy of our consciousness and the energy that we produce, will have quickened. So when energy sheds everything that's weighing it down, its vibratory rate quickens, becomes faster, it speeds up. And when that happens within a human being at a cellular level, we are able to transcend the gravity and the heavy density and the carbon-like nature of our form, and become immersed into what is known as our light body, which is the field of energy that we emanate as conscious, loving beings. And these books that I read spoke in length on that. And at the time, I also read books that were about Jesus Christ, his teachings, the story of his death and resurrection. And for me, not only did they scientifically make sense, as hopefully it just made sense to you when I explained it this simply, but it gave me a sense of hope that this is achievable, for anyone who dedicates themselves to a higher path in life, to a higher purpose than self-gratification and self-gain, that we can, for the greater good, elevate ourselves as custodians of our planet and as of children of light and love, and shed essentially our carbon form and become immersed into our light body. You've probably heard it said in everyday terms, when so-and-so enters the room, they light it up. They light up the room. These are the unseen things that we notice. That's one of them that we notice just from day to day. Or his smile lights up his whole face, or he's got a twinkle in his eye, or she's just a breeze when she walks through. There's all these ways that we have actually already integrated the basic understanding of what it is that I'm talking about into our everyday lives. I think what happened initially is that more discerning types of people read New Age material and found that it lacked, in some areas, scientific evidence, that it seemed to be merely speculative, that some of the members of the New Age community may have seemed a bit wacky or a bit kooky or just making stuff up. And I think that's, for any inquiring and rational, discerning person, possibly a fair call to make in some instances. You really do, before you get hooked on an idea, you really need to test it for yourself and the credibility of the information that's being presented to you. For me, I didn't judge the messengers. I looked at the information that I was being given, and it made sense to me. It rang true for me. It made scientific sense to me that if matter is energy at its lowest vibration, then if we mentally and emotionally shed negatives and pull our heads out of what is essentially a toxic, negative, heavy, draconian system, purify our bodies and live in harmony with nature, that we would essentially, as energetic beings, electric beings, quicken our cellular vibratory rate and stand a good chance of experiencing what is called a rapture, bliss, heaven on earth. And it does exist. I've been fortunate enough to witness it, experience it, live in it, embrace a childlike quality of innocence in life. So the New Age community, I'm not quite sure where it's at now. I know that there is a lot of information that's still online and people who believe in it. And I think it's wonderful that they do. But what is very difficult to reconcile and to accept is where we have ended up. And it is not where we were supposed to be. So as for one of the other reasons why I dedicated 5 years of my life to nailing the people behind what has been done to us is because of the severity of the violation that they have committed against every single living creature on the face of the planet. There aren't words that can adequately describe the emotion that I have for the ignorance of these people who you will have heard me say before, I do not consider them human. They are subhuman. The violation that they have committed is such that in infecting the airwaves with mobile internet, mobile technology, they have impacted the human genome. They have impacted us at a cellular level and at a genetic level, at a mental level and an emotional level, in such a way as to completely saturate and surround every single one of us that is even anywhere remotely near a town or a city. And with the invention of social media apps in phones, what is actually happening is an entrapment of younger people who will no longer benefit from the great privilege of realizing their full potential as spiritual human beings on this planet. They will more likely go down the path of transhumanism, which is obviously a massive cheat code. Big tech have always been at war with nature, and they have always been at war with the spirit. They are essentially jealousy-driven creatures. And where something is marvelous, rather than merely appreciate it, respect it, allow it to live and learn from it, they try to copy it, do it better, take all the kudos, and essentially all they've done is create a fake version of the truth. Transhumanism is not the same as being raised from the dead or being immortal. The true sense of immortality that we all share as natural organic beings is of our spirit, our animating life force. Call it what you want. People have different ideas about how it shapes itself in our persona and how it gets us up out of bed every day when we feel like we can't go on, of how it knows what love is, and understands things and is of a finer nature than our base lower human nature, which is very animalistic. But they have always been at war with these two things. The United States Department of Defense have always been at war with these two things, because once you start getting all la-di-da and wanting to love everybody and be friendly, you leave yourself open to attack from other nations. That's their reasoning. That's their reasoning. That and money and profit and entertainment and media and showing off and being selfish and proud and vain and massively egotistical, and they are destroying the lives of millions of children right this second. Something happens to a human being, it doesn't even need to be to do with mobile internet and what's being done to people every day through the nervous system. You only need to send a young man off to war and see him again when he comes home to know what can be done to a human being to completely destroy any sense of innocence that they may ever have, that would hold them high in making any kind of transition from the physical nature of our existence, of pain and suffering, into a more elevated and loving, knowing, compassionate and wise state of being. And this is what is happening. Innocence is being violated. People are being traumatized. Events are being concocted and engineered by online content. Terrible things are happening to good people. And I'm really sorry, I don't mean to make it sound like it's all bad, but it is. Probably the only good in any of it are the little cracks that open for me to speak to you through this technology, which I wouldn't need to do if it didn't exist. So it's sort of a catch-22, and entrapment is the name of the game. So in the previous podcast, when I was speaking to you about how the networks used celebrities to lure people onto the networks, to lure children onto the networks, to appeal to a broader audience, what was actually happening was a trap was being set up. And what they have done is they figured, well, if we can get everybody on the internet, and especially on Facebook and social media, then we've got everybody under the control of a single algorithm. And if anyone points that out, they either won't be believed, or it'll be too hard for anyone to figure out how. Well, that's a load of bullshit. It's not hard to figure out how. Not once you understand energy systems and how they operate. Not once you look up a few very convenient things like what frequency the eye is, what frequency rate of vibration the heart is, and it's very interesting that these frequencies are either harmonics or octaves of telecommunications broadcast frequencies. I mean, the fact that the actual human body, the heart, the mind has been targeted so accurately by the technology and by an algorithm, to me, really speaks volumes about the nature of the disgusting creatures that are behind this. I made a podcast a few months ago where I was sort of putting forward, a little bit of a conversation with them that I was keeping very nice at the time, because I felt that in light of the fact that they probably think they're doing the right thing by everybody in their complete and utter bumbling ignorance, that they might benefit from hearing a slightly different approach from somebody wasn't just walking up and calling them out and calling them assholes, in that they, throughout time, have threatened to kill people and silence people who expose them. That's just ego. You only need to live in a block of apartments, or have a fight in a family or something, experience road rage to see what people can be like when they're under the hammer and they're exposed, or your boss is an idiot, and does that every day. It's just ego, and they're vain, and they don't like anybody thinking bad of them, and they don't want their plans interrupted. They put a lot of work into it, they put a lot of money into it, and they love their power and control. They are every single bad guy that ever existed in any great movie ever made in the world, ever. They're the bad guys. And when I was moving through the New Age movement, I didn't want to believe in bad guys, because it was a low rate way of perceiving other beings. And I didn't want to believe that anybody would deliberately do horrible things. I didn't think that was possible. I'm not so sure now. I think that because of the sophistication of the technology, which, let's be honest, is pretty crude and is not that sophisticated anyway, I hope that there are alien civilizations out there who look at their technology, a smartphone, and those ugly Dalek towers all over the cities and laugh. It's all kind of barbaric. It just looks like a whole bunch of barbed wire and some crappy lithium explosive device that's strapped to everyone's brains, giving them cancer and preventing them from ever having children because they keep it in their pocket all day. I really hope that is the case from on high if we're being peered at through a galactic telescope. But that the relative sophistication of the technology that is being employed has all come out of the United States Department of Defense, DARPA, the Pentagon. It's all war toys. And it's pretty sophisticated stuff down here. I mean, it does fancy stuff. It can do this, it can do that, you know. And then there's what they use for war itself, with spying and, you know, interception and, I don't know, creating sonic weapons and, God, rockets and all sorts of stuff, missiles. I mean, it's incredible that man has actually spent so much time and effort into making bigger toys to kill other people with. But somewhere in there, he's used his intellect and come up with fancy technology, but it is being deliberately used. It's quite consciously and deliberately used to target people. They're ruthless. They do not have a soul. They do not love. They do not have any compassion or sense of humanity whatsoever. They work solely for power, money, and control. And the laughable thing about that, while so many people's lives are being destroyed, including children who will never, as I said, understand the benefits or know the absolute bliss and enjoyment of living wholly and fully in love and light, instead dedicating their time to video games, scrolling their Facebook feed, and transhumanism. The tragedy of it is that they not only do they not care, but they seem to be unaware that they are not God. It's sort of a joke. It's sort of like a big joke. But we're supposed to take it seriously. You know, that these creatures, these people who run things on this planet, presumed planet, lovely holographic planet we've got, that they actually think that they act like they're God, but they also know that they're not. And so it's sort of a joke, right? They're joking, but we're supposed to take it seriously. And if we don't, and if we disobey, well, we get in trouble or we get silenced or killed. It's pathetic. It's pathetic. So that's why I spent 5 years on this. Not only because of what they did to me, but because of what they're doing to everybody that I've ever known. They spit in God's face. Whatever you believe God is, whatever you believe some infinite life, power of life is, whatever you believe it is, they spit in its face. Every good thing, every innocent thing, every sweet thing, every beautiful thing, they don't care. They spit in its face. And I don't have any more of that sentiment of not wanting to believe that bad guys exist anymore and they're all just, you know, unconscious beings and everything. They're doing what they're doing quite deliberately. They know exactly what they're doing. Anyway, food for thought. Something else that I mentioned just earlier today somewhere online, someone was saying that they just find it so hard to believe that millions of people could still be bowing down at the government's feet and doing whatever they say, knowing full well they can't be trusted. Everyone's known that for ever. And I made the point of saying that I think it's really honestly because ultimately where we've ended up is a very selfish society because of the effect of the technology that's in use and how it's rewired people to no longer think about doing the honourable and the noble thing and to consider everyone's well-being and everyone's rights, but to only serve themselves. And so if the consequence for disobeying government is massive fines or being homeless or losing your job or whatever, they're not going to do it because they will preserve themselves before they will consider what is best for everyone. The really sad thing about that is that if everyone did it, if everyone disobeyed, there'd be nothing the government could do. I honestly believe that. There'd be nothing they could do. The worst case scenario is that they would just kill as many people as possible and force the rest of us into slavery. And, you know, I mean, big whoop, but at least they would have lowered themselves to that, and whatever eyes in the sky watching can witness them do it and send a massive asteroid their way and wipe them off the face of the earth once and for all. I just don't see really that at the end of the day how we are benefiting each other by only serving ourselves. I don't think rights should be violated to this extent. I don't think our children should be being sold politics on crappy social media apps. And that's on top of what's actually being done to them, their brain and their heart, whenever they stare at a mobile phone screen. Anyway, I just wanted to share that with you. I don't know how many of you think along the same lines or not, but it is a finer point in terms of why this is. My work is not just another conspiracy theory. It is not just another bit of information for people to sort of get off on for a while online, talking about with their friends before they go back to being, before they drop it, forget about it, and, you know, they've just had something to talk about. My work is based on a deeply spiritual principle that the violations that these people have committed on all life on earth are so grotesque and severe. I don't think it's being made a fine point of. It needs to have a finer point made. It needs to be made quite clear that these people are mass murderers. They are psychopaths. When I upload this podcast to YouTube, I am placing it into the hands of psychopaths. I hope they hear it. And I hope that when it goes between towers because somebody accesses it on their mobile phone or Wi-Fi through their laptop or their iPad, I hope everybody hears it, that these people are psychopathic mass murderers who do not care about me. They do not care about your children. They do not care about you. If they did, you would not own a smartphone. Thank you.